Hello, Internet. The Morgan You Know podcast network presents Balls and Brew.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Balls and Brew podcast, the flagship sports podcast here on the Morgan You Know podcasting network. We call it that because we're talking about sports that involve balls the way that you do when you're hanging out with your friends having some brews. Thus, the name of the podcast. Jimmy and Chris will be along shortly to talk about the NBA with me. Jimmy is, of course, producing this podcast, but I am pulling a surprise on these guys, an audible. When the podcast network is named after your last name, you can kind of do whatever you want. These gentlemen like baseball. I don't follow it much anymore, but I happen to absolutely love Evan Altman. I think that if you like baseball, you should follow everything that Cubs Insider does. He does a wonderful job over there. He's a Morgan You Know Hall of Famer, so we're having him on right now to talk a little bit about baseball. Evan, hello.
How's it going? I did not. I'm upset. I'm in this Hall of Fame. I have not received a jacket of any color, gold or green or plaid or anything of the sort.
Now, here's the thing. You've been on the show a time or two before. You know it is hard for Jimmy and Chris and I to agree upon something. So at this point right now, we are still in the committee stages, figuring out what the accoutrement that the Morgan You Know Hall of Famers receive.
Got it.
So as soon
Okay.
as we iron that out, you will be on the mailing list.
Okay. I just want to make sure I can send over my measurements at your leisure. So just let me know.
Listen, it may be a jacket, it may be like a belt buckle, right? Remember when people were big on putting belt buckles on their belts, right? We may go back to that. We may get like a charm you can put on your hat. You know, we haven't decided. Like I said, it's in the committee stages.
Okay.
We're going to kick it around. We're going to figure it out. You are a Renaissance man. You have many interests. You will prove that to the people at the end of our talk here. But let's start with where you focus the majority of your time. You are a man about baseball. You know that I've given baseball up. I have baseball still true in my heart. I have nothing against baseball, but I've given it up due to many different factors that we're not going to go into right now. But one story that caught my ear at the beginning of this baseball season that seems to be not a story anymore. And so, Evan, I just wonder, is there any more to examine in the Shohei Ohtani situation? Or is it really all over? Nothing to see here. Move along. He's still the greatest player in baseball.
Well, I think as far as Ohtani himself and the situation there, I know his interpreter has pled guilty. He's been charged with wire fraud and any number of different kind of theft related things. And so to that extent, it's over. However, if we are talking about gambling and Major League Baseball and Major League Baseball players, it's far from over because only more recently, Tucapita Marcano, who actually I saw play with the Indianapolis Indians when he was in the Pirates organization, has been suspended for life because he gambled at least $150,000 on games in which his team was competing, in which he was playing. Now, here's the thing, though. Dude only won 4% of the bets he laid. And so he's either the dumbest gambler on earth, or you almost have to look at it like, and I was hearing somebody talk about this and say, like, dude, you just gave up, right? Even if you're making the minimum, it's like $750,000 a year. So not only did you piss away a career in which you could have made millions of dollars, but you lost money gambling. You weren't even throwing games and like manipulating the games in which you were betting because you only won 4%. Like, how was it worth it, bro? To have done this? Like, there's all these things. But
it almost makes you want to believe in karma in that situation, right?
Right.
Somebody like him's not supposed to be betting, and then he didn't win because of it.
Right. It's like, if you're that stupid, actually, you deserve to be kicked out of the league. But there were some minor leaguers that got suspended for a year, but this stuff's not going to go away, right? Because you cannot watch a broadcast without being inundated by whether it's ads in between innings, actually sponsoring various things. The Cubs have a sports book attached to Wrigley Field, right? Like, it is ubiquitous and it is impossible to get away from. And when it's not going down to the seedy back alley and talking to some bookie, right, who'll break your legs if you don't pay up, it's just on your phone. Anybody can get access to these apps. It's very easy to do. And that was the thing, of course, where Marcano did it really stupidly, because he was just like doing it out in the open. At least the Otani thing, they were going through a bookie, and it was like this guy kind of doing his
Well, I'll
thing
tell you what, let's go back to
illegally.
that Otani situation for
Yeah,
a second, right? Let's go back. Let's take ourselves in time, right? Let's get our flux capacitor on. Let's get Doc Brown. Let's get the DeLorean. Let's make a time machine, and we'll go back there.
1.21 gigawatts. Let's go. Great
Bingo.
Scott.
What kind of doomsday scenarios were you running through your head when you first heard about that? Like, how close did you think baseball might have been to, like, oh my God, this could be the nail in the coffin? Did you get there at any point, or did you
No,
always kind of, you knew, nah, we're not there yet?
no, this is happening when it was all coming about. I was actually out in spring training, so I was talking with a lot of people out there at Sloan Park, and kind of tailgating Cubs games, and I tend to, maybe naively so, because I'm a big Otani fan. I love what he's done, just the immense talent and the fact that he's been able to do that on both on the mound and at the plate, and the fact that he's again basically gunning for MVP yet again with the new team under all the pressure with the big contract. Part of it I could look at that, being kind of um, pragmatic or whatever you want to call it. Say Major League Baseball wouldn't let that happen to where he's going to be the one that blows this whole thing up. But I also think if we look at his personality, and as reserved as he's been, as much as he's kind of removed himself from the media landscape, like he's just a very quiet guy who I think was unfortunately too trusting in someone who saw an opportunity and took advantage of him. And a lot of people, I get it. Like normal folks, you and I could not imagine someone just kind of taking away $3 million or whatever it was of my money. But at the same time, if I was making the kind of money that Shohei Ohtani has been, I might not have noticed that. And if you put your trust again at that level, I don't think this is a guy who goes out and splurges on anything. I think he basically saves up everything and lives very modestly. And when you do that, you just know I've got all this money in the bank. I got all this money coming to me later. I kind of think he just put faith in too many people to take care of things for him and was taken advantage of. That would be my thought. That was my thought at the beginning. I still kind of maintain that, but at the same time, if I did want to go the other way, I would say MLB would find a way to make somebody take the fall for this, because there's no way they could let that dude go down for a gambling scheme, because then who knows what happens, right? The lid could be blown off a much larger kind of a deal. So
And that's what I worry
yeah,
about, right?
yeah,
I understand. You kind of made reference to it earlier when we were talking about the amount of money that these guys are throwing away by pissing it away on these gambling debts, right? And then a lot of times they don't even end up winning anyway. So you're going to lose money on a bet that can then make you lose money in your
yeah,
future for a salary you can make, right? So I understand that a guy like Otani that can make that level of money is probably not going to be messing around gambling on a whole lot of games. But what I do worry about is like what you also talked about with the prevalence of gambling these days. Do you think we could somehow run into a scenario where we have a guy who, yes, makes an absolute boatload of money, but happens to be a bit of a degenerative gambler, and then we can run into trouble? That's what I worry about,
yeah.
right? We're getting in uncharted waters, are we not?
Absolutely. But I mean, again, it's not just that these companies are buying ad space, right? Major League Baseball has an arrangement with MGM, right? With Vegas. That is why. So back in the day, and this, I think it got established 4 or 5 years ago. You used to see, and I complain about Craig Counsell all the time because his lineups come out late. It used to be clockwork. Basically, 4 hours before game time, you'd have the lineups for the game, right? Because I write up a post every day. I write a preview post, putting in the lineup, notes on the opposing pitcher, things like that. And it's nice to know roughly when that's going to come out so I can kind of understand where I need to be at a certain time. But once MLB set this up, so all lineups have to be submitted to the league office to then be submitted through MGM to make sure betting lines are correct, to know who's in what lineups, all this stuff. That's MLB directly having to put that stuff through Vegas based on that agreement. And so when you have that, it's the same thing as Major League Baseball buying and owning Rawlings. So then they say, well, why is the baseball getting manipulated? Well, who owns that, right? Once you have that agreement in place and you are that intimately involved, the lines get very, very blurred. And that's where I get really concerned, because when there's that much money that's being given to Major League Baseball and the individual teams for all that ad revenue, and it's so intertwined, it becomes very, very difficult to extricate yourself from these and say, well, you can't gamble on this. It was like, dude, what are you talking about? You're making like hundreds of $1 millions a year off of this sport or off of this activity.
And with the modest TV landscape that's out there as well, right? The money that are coming in from these gambling houses that make up a whole lot of, Major League Baseball's pie, right? Like if you've got ESPN coming to MLB and saying, hey, we want to pay you a lot less money for this Sunday night baseball package, all of a sudden that goes away from your pie. So then you're going to look at one of your more trusted partners as being these gambling houses that continue to shell the money over to you. So I think that it's a thing that we need to continue to talk about in sports. But you also made reference, because again, you are a Hall of Famer, of Ohtani not being harmed by it so far on the field. He's not pitching this year due to his injury, but he's DHing for the Dodgers, putting up great stats. We'll get to other players in Major League Baseball who are great, but as I stated here, I don't pay any attention, but somehow I heard about Paul Skeens. Inform our listeners on who Paul Skeens is.
Yeah, so if you are into the whole Instagram, TikTok influencer, you may be familiar with his girlfriend Livy Dunn, who is a gymnast. Also appeared at LSU. Also appeared on the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition in it a year or two ago. But so Skeens is a dude who not super highly recruited. Actually went to the Air Force Academy initially, and I believe he was a little bit shorter at the time. Right, had kind of a late growth spurt. Velocity spikes up. All of a sudden, he's throwing upper 90s. He transfers to LSU, which again, baseball powerhouse, wins the Golden Spikes, right? He's the best pitcher, best player in college baseball, leads LSU to a College World Series, drafted number 1 overall by the Pirates. Dude just completely destroyed minor league hitters, right? I mean, he's got a fastball that touches 102, 103, nasty slider, just and the kind of, he's got that. Most guys who throw that hard, they've got balls when they're out there, right? But this is like the kind of the Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens, like, I know I'm better than you, and I'm just going to go down and shove it down your throat. And also kind of my understanding is he's a pretty strong presence in the clubhouse. That may not be the case yet, right, at the major league level, because he is still a rookie. But this is a dude, faced the Cubs, his first 2 appearances in Major League Baseball. A little rough the first time, carved him up the second time. Just a really fun dude to watch, just because when you see that kind of velocity, we're used to seeing it in Major League Baseball, but not so much with a starter. You don't see dudes who come out like that throwing 5, 6, 7 innings possibly and hitting triple digits routinely. So, I mean, this is going to be that guy who, unfortunately, is going to victimize the Cubs and the rest of the NL Central for years and years to come, until the Pirates inevitably trade him to the Yankees.
Nice. All right. Well, yeah, that is unfortunately how it works, right? The finances of Major League Baseball are different than any other sport. But I noticed the teams, as far as the best are, right? You got the Yankees, look to me, as I looked at the standings here on ESPN.com, have the best record in the American League. The Phillies have the best record in the National League. Do you think that will hold, or is there another team that you look for to be holding the trophy at the end of the year?
I still think it's difficult to look at the Dodgers out there and say that they're not, again, with the extreme amount of talent that they have. Although, the Phillies have been knocking on the door for a while. They've got a ton of talent, a very highly paid roster. So absolutely have some dudes, right, who can go out there and make it happen. But I just think, for my money, if I have to look at it, although the Dodgers do typically find a way to hose things up, other than the short season in 2020. So I don't know. Maybe that doesn't work out for him, but I just look at that Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Ohtani right there in the heart of that lineup, and just, how do you go out there and how does that team get beat by anybody, in a 5 or a 7 game series? Like, I just don't know how that happens. So I still look at them. I do think, yeah, the Yankees, when we're looking at the American League, but they're not that far ahead of their own divisional opponents there in the Orioles. The Orioles are just super young, so I do kind of, I get some concerns about that. But they kind of they were on the come last year. I really, really like them a lot. I know the Mariners are playing pretty well, but I would much rather see. I hate the Yankees, so give me the Orioles.
I like that you said the Orioles as well, because I noticed that Gunnar Henderson is number 2 in the Major League Baseball in home runs right now. Is Gunnar Henderson his real name? Shout out to that dude if that's his real name.
Yeah, I mean, you got Gunnar Henderson and Heston Kjerstad and all kinds of fun dudes that the fruits of their labor are actually paying off. Unlike the White Sox, who were terrible for a long time,
Oh,
stockpiled tons of prospects. and then couldn't do jack with it. And now they're like one of the worst teams in the league again. Whereas the Orioles were awful, right? We're talking like those people had to suffer through 100-loss seasons multiple times to get those top draft picks, but they nailed it with just about every one of them. And they've still got Jackson Holliday, son of Matt Holliday, who Cubs and Cardinals fans alike may remember for his time in left field, getting hit in the dick by a fly ball that he missed.
Sure did.
And then hitting a whole bunch of home runs against the Cubs and everybody else. But, he's got his son's the number one prospect. His older son's the number one prospect in baseball. His younger son is not yet draft eligible, but will be a senior in high school next year and probably will be the number one draft pick after next year. And so
It's because of
good
baseball
genes in that
factory
family.
over here.
Yeah.
Goodness.
They're running some good stuff. It works out real well. I know that the Jackson like basically decided to go homeschool, I think, for his senior season. So pretty much he could do whatever he wanted, go work out at the Oklahoma State baseball facilities with his dad. Yeah, pretty much. It was very similar to Harper. Although Harper got his GED and just went into junior college early so he could play in a wood bat league, which is just insane, right? Like, I'm just going to graduate early and go play college ball at like 17 years old and still be the number one draft pick because I'm just better than everyone.
Yeah. I'm still going to continue to be better than everyone on in my late 20s and 30s.
How many dudes do that? How many basketball players have we seen on the cover of Sports Illustrated when LeBron did it, right? But there aren't that many. Kobe, maybe another one, but you don't usually see it in baseball because like it's such a long development process.
I certainly thought he'd be a flash in the pan when I heard about this kid.
Yeah, it was wild, and he just did it. Like at no point were there any hiccups. Just came up and did his thing. So Juan Soto, another dude who didn't have the hype early because of that, but came up to the league very, very early, and all he's ever done is just have like the most patient plate approach, and just been a dude who, again, next year is going to get paid similar to Ohtani. So there you go.
All right, well, let's turn it to what the majority of the listeners to this program want to hear about, what you expertise in every day. As you said, you put a post up every day where they put the lineup out. You traffic in the Cubs. You attend the Cubs convention. You know your Cubs baseball. I have one question for our esteemed producer, James Jamriska, because, of course, we already covered Shohei Ohtani. And, every time you come on this show, Chris King asks you a question about Shohei Ohtani. So we covered that for him. Jimmy's question is, how in the world can the Cubs completely continue to squander this great season from Tanaka? Is that his name? Geez. Or did I say his name wrong?
Imanaga.
There you go.
Well, they're going to continue to do it because they just blew a late lead to the Rays in their first series out there. It's just the offense just isn't consistent. They're not scoring enough runs. One thing that we saw from and it's inconsistent in a different way. Last year we saw it where they would blow somebody out, 15-1, and then they'd lay an egg the next couple games. They'd lose like 2-1 and 1-0 or something like that. But they still have this really nice run differential because they blew a team out, and they would do that fairly frequently. This year, they're losing all the close games. Actually, they ended up getting walked off with a 3-run homer, so it ended up not being a 1-run game. But I think they played 26 one-run games so far. They're 12-14 in one-run games, right? That is not something that a good team can get away with. You cannot have that many games. And the fact that you're playing in that, and a majority of those, we're not talking 9-8, 7-6, is like 2-1, 3-2, 4-3, that sort of thing, to where they're simply not scoring enough runs. They're not getting on teams early, getting into the bullpens when they need to, and making that happen. So it's just
because I'm not a huge baseball guy anymore, but you like being able to hold teams to 4-3, right? You like your chances an awful lot if you can hold teams to 4-3.
Yeah, absolutely. You figure, hey, if it's 5 runs, right? If we're scoring 5 to 6 runs, and I don't say I don't like to we myself with the Cubs. So I'm just saying, if I'm the team, thinking,
doing it for our listeners, we appreciate your sacrifice.
We can get 5 to 6 runs on any given game, you feel good about yourself. That your chances are good there, but the Cubs have simply not scored enough runs.
Do you look at anybody on the team to improve their performance to help that? Or do you think the Cubs are going to just kind of like say, we're not there again and they're going to sell off? Are there certain young guys you'd like to see come up and get a different chance? What do we think about the not being able to score runs? How can we change it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things I think that play into that. Like you need to see Cody Bellinger has not stepped up and been the guy that we saw last year, right? That's a big one there. Nico Horner's been hurt a couple times, kind of up and down. Dansby Swanson was hurt, underperformed, and he's kind of coming around lately. But Ian Happ has been really hot or really cold. Seiya Suzuki has.
I love that Ian Happ's still on the team. I know who Ian Happ is. I love he's still there.
He'll be around for a while. But it's just none of the big money guys, none of the premier names, none of those guys have been day in, day out. Two of them will get hot, three of them will go cold, and then it'll flip. So there hasn't been a period where your top 4 or 5 guys you can count on every game to go out there and produce. It's just and that's not something that you can do. So yeah, would I like to see some young guys come up? Sure. But I don't think they've got anybody right now. Owen Casey is one who I think could come up and have an impact. Brennan Davis has been knocking around in the minors forever. He's been really hot lately. I mean,
I think that
there
guy's
are
been through
some guys
South
that got.
Bend. I'm pretty sure I've seen that
Oh
guy play
yeah,
in South Bend.
many times he's been there. Even lately because he's been hurt so much, he's had a rehab through there. So yeah, I mean, are there guys? Sure, but if your big money players aren't pulling their weight, it doesn't matter who you can have come up, right? Because like a rookie's not going to just come up and suddenly turn the fate of the team around.
The last question I have is, again, this is me. These are players that I know. I saw Kyle Hendricks' name getting floated around. Is it tough going for my guy Kyle right now? Is he need to be taken out of the rotation? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, it's time for. He's been taken out of the rotation. It's about time for him to be put out to pasture. The professor no longer is. He's forgotten his notes from his lectures, and yeah, I think he's fallen asleep up there at the podium, and the students aren't there for the class anymore. It's been rough going for him so far.
All right, so then I got to get my Tom Ricketts shot in, and this is how I'm going to do it. Tom decided to spend all of his money on a manager. We lured him away from Milwaukee. But as I look at the standings, the team that manager left is still dominating us in the Central Division. So ultimately, how much of a decision or how much of a change do you think it's going to make that the Cubs have a different manager as we round towards the playoffs here?
Well, and that's the issue, right? Is the thought was that Craig Counsell was a guy not who could change the entire fate of the club, but who could work some of those margins a little bit better, make things, manage the bullpen better. And it's those one run losses or 1-run games that I was talking about where the thought was he's going to make a difference. His managerial expertise, his personnel, just getting to know guys and understanding how his team worked, that's going to help the Cubs to be better in 1-run games. And like I said, they played more of them than any team in baseball, and they are 2 games under 500 in those games. And realistically, we could call it 3, even though they lost by more than 1. They were up 2-1 going into the bottom of the 9th and ended up dropping that game. So it's not working out the way everybody wanted.
So we could at least, I guess, if we're trying to say glass half full, we could say at least he's doing enough to manage us into the opportunity to win a lot of games. He just hasn't cashed in on those W's so far.
Yeah, he's getting a 2-strike counts. He just can't finish guys off with a strikeout.
There we go. All right, well, we're going to finish off here. As I stated, there are 2 Morgan Hall of Famers, yourself and Father Pete McCormick, and you gentlemen receive Hall of Fame status when you come on, when you can spin a yarn like no other, when you have a vast array of knowledge that you can just pull on from any time. I follow you on Twitter. I tell all of our listeners all the time they should follow you on Twitter. You drop many different recommendations, be that a TV show, a movie you saw, a vacation spot you went to, a drink you're into. So we're going to start a new segment. Every time you come back and join us on the network, Evan recommends. The floor is yours, my friend.
Got it. Well, so I got a couple of them, and I'm going to spin a yarn here. I hope I don't take up too much time here. But the first one, because I'm wearing my Teddy Swims shirt, my first one is if you have not gotten out there and indulged in the music of one Mr. Teddy Swims, I would highly recommend that. We're talking some Blue Eyed Soul with a lot of fun. His album, so his first full album, I've Tried Anything But Therapy. That's been out for a while. Now he's got 1.5. There's a few new tracks that are out there, so go find it on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you get your stuff. But I dare you to listen to that and not just kind of have a smile on your face and enjoy it. The dude's whole catalog is great, and he's got some awesome covers. If you go back on YouTube, just some tremendous stuff. And if you ever get a chance to see him live, do so. I've done so 4 times, but his next round of touring is already sold out, and it's really expensive. But so Teddy
You
Swims
had
on
me
that
at Blue Eyed
side.
Soul, by
Yeah.
the way, to quote Jerry Maguire here. You had me at Blue Eyed Soul, by the way.
That's but I will say I got a book recommendation, and then which would be You Like It Darker. It's a new short story collection by one Mr. Stephen King, who I'm sure everyone has probably heard of. And generally Stephen King doesn't need a whole lot of recommendations because he's Stephen King. He's the greatest American author of all time. But really fun stuff in there, some really cool melancholy stuff, and Speaking of short stories by Stephen King, there's another one that has been adapted into a movie. It's The Life of Chuck. It's going to be. It's
Okay.
already been done. Filming so it's directed by Mike Flanagan. Stars Mark Hamill and Tom Hiddleston. So really fun one.
Okay.
Again, kind of weird that they're doing that as a movie, but Mike Flanagan is an expert in adapting Stephen King stories that probably shouldn't work. He directed Gerald's Game. He directed Doctor Sleep.
Dr. Sleep, good stuff. I'm not a huge Stephen King guy, but that was good.
Yeah, so the Shining sequel for those
Right.
who
That's the
aren't
only reason I
familiar.
checked it out.
Yeah, so Flanagan, really good dude. I actually got to meet him through another podcast called the King Cast. So I had got a selfie with him, got to hang out with him for a while. So this is a funny story because the Phillies and Mets just played the London series, and I was getting nostalgic because I was out in London last summer to see the Cubs play the Cardinals. And I was out there, a coworker of mine who's actually a Cardinals fan. So we were hanging out and we were just talking about some things. Hey, what are you watching? Blah, blah, blah. They were talking about I think the Haunting of Hill House or Haunting of Bly Manor, also directed by Mike Flanagan, who also did The Fall of the House of Usher, and some
Wife
other
was a
stuff
big fan of those. Familiar.
yeah. So tremendous stuff. So, and Kate Siegel, his wife, stars in those as well. Also super, super awesome. Like two of the best people, just most gracious, amazing folks ever. Right. So he's talking about this he's going on. He's extolling all this stuff, saying all these cool things about Flanagan. I'm playing dumb. I'm kind of like, oh, who's that guy? Well, like, what's he? And I'm like scrolling through my phone, and then I find the picture. I was like, oh, you mean this guy? And I show him, and he and my buddy and his wife were just like, oh my god! And so I was like, oh yeah, I know Mike. As if we're
Nice.
buddies or whatever. But it was just funny. We
Nice. Look
go
at
through this
you.
whole thing. But I think like if there's somebody out there who's working right now who gets it, and you want to see something, if you're into horror, and this is why I like Stephen King so much, because there's a whole ton of like black humor and even just outright standard humor to his stuff. Again, the melancholy with he gets people, and Flanagan does a tremendous job of he'll weave kind of the morality tale into this whole thing, but there's gore and there's just hilarity and all this stuff that's in there, and so there's a little something for everybody. You Like It Darker, new book by Stephen King, Teddy Swims, anything by Mike Flanagan, but be on the lookout for The Life of Chuck.
See, this is why he's a Hall of Famer, folks. All right. He's on here. He's waxing philosophical about baseball, catching you up on that for good over 20 minutes. And then he brings you all of this knowledge at the end. All right. We don't just put people in the Hall of Fame willy-nilly. All right. You got to do something to earn it. And Mr. Altman, my friend, you have earned it every single time. Thank you for coming back on the network.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Anytime I get to just talk, that's what I love to do it. So
Listen, people say one of my greatest skills is understanding other folks that like to talk with me. And my friend, anytime I can talk with you, I will do it. So we will have you back on sometime in the future. And thank you so much. And Jimmy and Chris will be along here in a second, and we will talk about my Celtics getting ready to wrap up the NBA Finals. Yeah, that's right. I said it.
Welcome to the Fast Break, the fastest 15 minutes in the NBA. Jimmy, Rod, and Chris are here on the Morgan Knows Podcasting Network. Rod Morgan, Celtics fan, I need to know what you were going through the last 5 minutes of that game the other night.
No, Jimmy. We need to start here, okay? You and your son, Jackson Jamriska, did a live broadcast near the end of Game 3, and I happened to jump on Facebook and see the views number, and apparently we've been doing this wrong all along. All three of us are babbling on to no one, and getting your son, Jackson, involved nearly tripled, doubled, quadrupled, I don't even know, 500 centupled times the normal viewers we get. So, Jackson, God bless you. Please come back on the show. Get us some viewers. I am absolutely not surprised, Jimmy. Not surprised. Before the finals, I told you boys, Celtics in 5. Mavericks did not worry me. This Celtics team is better than they get credit for. They are about to be 80-20. If they win the game on Friday night, they will have won their 11th straight playoff game. They will end the playoffs 16-2. This is an all-time great team. Maybe not an all-time great top 20, top 25 player, but many, many very good players playing the right way. I love to see it. God bless the Celtics.
Chris, were you able to watch that, or are you just listening on the rabbit ears?
I mean, let's. Is this just? Are we just going to be praising the Celtics this whole time?
Yeah,
'Cause, I mean,
we have to be.
That feels like what we have to do, right? Like, as much as I hate it, let's talk about what this team is doing. All right, they're proving that they are deeper. They have better skilled players at every position, just about, except for maybe one. And that one guy has become a liability on defense for the Mavericks.
Easy,
and
Wendy.
it's
No, you're good.
it's become a real clear, you can't deny it at this point. Like, no one can deny that the Celtics deserve this championship, right? Like, they are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're showing how good they are finally, even if they like to give up those leads late in the fourth quarter and try to give all their fans heart attacks and make things interesting. They're still by far the superior team in the series.
So coming in last night, I had no idea. I just got home from work, and believe me, for the past hour, Jackson's been asking me where I was. Sitting down, seeing a 21-point lead, I said, this game's over. I think I actually said that. And from that on, it was like a 22-2 run. What worried me is it didn't seem like the Mavericks were playing that good a defense, and the Celtics just got scared. They made so many unforced errors. So many. It was really frustrating the entire time, but they were still able to win.
Listen, when you're watching a Celtics game out there, right? Like game 4, for instance, right? And like these Celtics peaks and valleys, there's one way to see it go down on the court, okay? And I describe it this way. The ball gets sticky, all right? When the Celtics start holding on to the ball and Jalen or Jason or Drew or anybody else, frankly, Peyton Pritchard sometimes, right? Or even Sam Hauser is just kind of dribbling around, holding on to the ball, looking for their shot. Things don't happen. But when the Celtics are moving the ball, boom, pass, cut. They're getting open shots in the paint, or they're getting wide open three-pointers in the corner. Or, when the Celtics move the ball, they are very, very tough to stop because, as Chris said, they have skilled guys at all positions. So pick your poison, right? You try to double one way, you're going to get burned another way. But when the Celtics get holding on to the ball and sticky, and anytime Jason Tatum has the ball with about 12 seconds, he, for some reason, and shout out to Bill Simmons, I've heard him say this before, but he thinks the shot clock ends at 10 seconds and he fires up that fadeaway three-pointer every time. So when the Celtics start doing that, runs happen. But when they're passing the ball around the perimeter, they can't be beat.
So going to the Mavericks real quick here, everyone's destroying Luka for his defense, and rightfully so. I was kind of impressed that he stopped shooting and he started passing a lot more down the stretch because he knew he didn't have it. And as soon as he fouls out, Kyrie Irving, I told Jackson on stream, he's going to do hero ball stuff because he thinks he needs to do that. And he did that fadeaway three-pointer that he thought he got fouled on. He probably did get fouled on, but that's okay. You knew that wasn't going to happen. You knew they were going to lose just because they gave it up. So kudos to Luka for that, but you got to play defense in this league to win, and the Celtics are proving that right now.
Can you give Luka kudos for that?
He
fouled out with 4 or 5 minutes left in the game because he was starting to be lazy, not caring. Him passing the ball may just have been him more of not caring and not trying to work. Like, listen.
2 of his fouls, too, Chris, speaking of that, 2 of his fouls were just anger fouls where he immediately just swiped at a guy after he missed a shot. You can't be doing that stuff when you're the best player on the floor.
I also don't think you can call all these things unforced errors or unforced turnovers. We got to talk about what I love in basketball, defense. All right. And what Boston's been doing to Dallas is pretty remarkable. All right. Because it doesn't matter what kind of offensive set the Mavericks are throwing at Boston. Boston has it covered. they aren't giving up those swing passes. They are staying on those other three guys outside of Luka and Kyrie to not allow them to get open shots. Uh, their wide open threes were like 25% lower than their season average in this series so far. Boston is forcing them to convert 90% of all their possessions in the half court offense, which Dallas doesn't do as well. So, like, this defense has created real problems for Dallas and has showed them a lot of issues they have, especially with their other three, their other 3, 4, 5 guys after Luka and Kyrie.
This series is over, Rod. I don't think that. I think it's.
Here's
four.
the thing, Jim. With Zinger out, right? With the Zinger out,
Yeah,
Dallas
and
had a
that's the next
chance
thing.
in Game 3. They had a chance in Game 3 when they were mounting that comeback. Dallas could have won Game 3. Maybe you sneak away with Game 4 as well in your home, and you got another series because you got Kristaps Porzingis out, and Al Horford's going to get progressively more tired as the series goes on. But now you have 3-game deficit. Al Horford can go all out for at least 2 more games, and you got to figure the Celtics are going to get one of the next 2. So absolutely, Jimmy, the series is over.
Only 32 people have documented the same injury as Kristaps Porzingis. That's amazing. And of course, as the Celtics fans say, of course he's 33. Of course, 33, obviously, number there. Guess how many people are struck by lightning in the United States a year, Rod?
It's like less than 33, isn't it? Like 6, 7?
No. Struck by lightning is 300 people a year are struck by lightning. 10 times as many people are struck by lightning than have the Kristaps Porzingis injury. That's how rare this is.
Right, but it's not that rare for Porzingis to have an injury. Listen, God bless him for playing the first 2 games because he gave the Celtics the spark they needed to probably
Game 1 was him. Yep.
It's ultimately, because I just don't see any way, like, even if Dallas wins the next 2, I just don't see a circumstance where this Celtics team that I just said to you has won 10 straight playoff games and only lost 2 the entire playoff series is about to lose 4 straight. I just don't see that happening. As much as I know the Celtics have a tendency to play with their food, Chris, because I see it. I see it in your eyes down there. I've known you too long. You're not 100% confident, and you're ready for me to have to eat my words here. But come on, 4 straight, that's not happening.
No one's coming back. Like, listen, and this is the biggest if that could be out there because this has never happened before in an NBA, right? No one's came back from 3-0, so it's not going to happen. But if it does, it would be the biggest storyline in the history of the NBA, would it not? That would be something more remarkable than anything I've seen since I started watching the NBA. Not to mention
the team that then gets beat that way fell just short of doing the same thing themselves the year before in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah. And we might have we might hear Dan Hurley talks to going to Boston instead of back to UConn.
I do like what Missoula's been doing for Boston, though. All right, showing him UFC fights, showing guys getting choked out, and the guy who's choking out the guy letting up, thinking he has it won, and then the other guy recovering and causing issues, and that's something that Boston
that gave him ideas, though. That gave him ideas for yesterday. That's exactly what they did. They let up. They already had the parade.
Rod, they've been doing that all year, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, Joe Maz is an absolute psychopath, and we need more psychopaths in the coaching ranks of the NBA, all right? Joe Maz is entertainment. Let's go. He watches The Town like 8 times a week. I mean, this is just not a normal individual. Let's go.
No, he's not at all. Some sad news in the NBA, too. The logo has passed away. Not a good month for NBA legends. Jerry West passes away. Doc Rivers had some really nice things to say on the Bill Simmons podcast recently, and Simmons wrote some things as well. It's amazing how you go from always being the top of your game, no matter what you do in your profession, whether you're a player or an executive. Terrific all around. He got Kobe. He got Lakers championships as he got Clippers. He worked for the Clippers. He did a good job there. But no, Jerry West was, again, he's the logo, Rod.
Yeah, and the other part I love about Jerry West's life that sometimes will get left out because you're absolutely right to point out the NBA success. That's the reasons that we all know him. But he is a good old-fashioned American success story too, man. You look at the West family tree from the hollers of West Virginia and like where that guy came out of to where he ended up later in his life and the generational wealth that he then provided for his family and generations of his family that were connected to all of that. That's pretty amazing, man. It proves what hard work and definitely a little bit of talent and maybe even a little bit of luck, but it still proves what hard work, talent, and luck can pull off for you here in America.
Chris, Logo, you were there when he was born.
I mean, listen, I may have been around. I don't think I was in the hollers of West Virginia back then. But Rod's not wrong. Like, listen, this is a kid who did not have anything given to him. All right. He poor, abusive family. All right. Went to the gym and worked hard to get away from that type of thing. And like it paid off. And here's a guy that's not only just was immensely talented, but like he has proven over and over again, doesn't matter what he's doing in his life, he becomes successful. This guy is going to be a 3-time basketball Hall of Fame inductee. All right. That hasn't been done, right? He's 3-time, 3 different ways. This guy has reinvented himself and came in and said, like, okay, I'm the best at it. Like, and we are acknowledging it. Like, it's insane. And it is why Kobe continued to say he was one of his top 5 because of how much knowledge and everything basketball Jerry West was. And it's unbelievable the impact that he's had on the game. And it was a very sad day for all of basketball.
And the ability to know when you're not the guy, another important part of leadership. Let's not forget Jerry West said, no, I'm not the right man to coach. This guy, Pat Riley over here, is the right guy to coach. Turns out that was the right call too.
That was a good call there. Luka is frustrated by the officials, so he just wants to go and have fun. I think it was Jaylen Brown, like a minute left. The game was kind of over, right? One of the Mavericks went to hit a 3. Jaylen Brown grabbed his arm in front of the official, or was it Derek White? Anyway, grabs his arm, looks at the official, goes, hi, fouling him. Let's go. Official doesn't call it. And the guy, he missed the 3, but what is going on still? I know
that's because Joe Maz is a psychopath. He's over there yelling at his team, foul him because 2 free throws is better than a 3-pointer. Joe Maz is not going to stop until they get a championship because he's seen the town and he knows that to pull off the Boston Fenway robbery, you got to have the plan to a T, because the minute something goes wrong, the feds are waiting on you and everybody's foiled.
For Dallas's hope, if you're a Mavs fan, you need to pray that Luka comes out and wants to have fun, all right? Because if he's out there having fun, that's when he's his most dangerous, all right? Let's be honest. If he's out there smiling, he's dropping 50-plus probably and making everybody look foolish.
And finally, it looks like JJ Redick is interviewing for the Lakers job again, maybe. I'm not sure what that is. Apparently, JJ Redick also interviewed for the Hornets job, so he does want to coach. It's just not the Lakers. Is this where we're going, Rod? It looks like it is.
Absolutely it is. This whole Dan Hurley thing didn't have anything to do with the Lakers, all right? This whole Dan Hurley thing had a lot to do with Shams v. Woj, and it had a lot to do with the Lakers trying to control the price on JJ Redick. I believe Bill Simmons's sources and Mr. Simmons sniffed this one out on his most recent podcast, and he tends to be right way more often than he tends to be wrong. So I'm not entirely sure how interested Dan Hurley ever was in coaching the Lakers, and the Lakers should quite frankly be ashamed of themselves that a college coach didn't go running away from a program. I don't care how successful that college program is. You're supposed to be the Los Angeles Lakers. And this guy just said, no thanks, Hollywood. I'm going to stay here in Storrs, Connecticut. Lakers.
It's the second time it's happened to LA. They did it back in 2004 with Krzyzewski. They tried to lure him away from Duke. But, like, listen, if you are a college coach like Krzyzewski or Hurley right now, where you are in complete control of your entire program and by default, the athletic program of that school, that's a whole lot of power to walk away from, even if they are doubling your salary. All right. Like, I'd be hard pressed for me to walk away from a situation where, oh, you mean I have a chance to do something that no one since John Wooden has done, and I have complete control over everything, including getting the players that I want and only those players that I want. Like, how could you walk away from that?
Well, it's the wild, wild west right now. You don't know what with paying players and the transfer portal. So I think that would be a reason, at least with the NBA,
UConn's got that money. He doesn't have to worry about it there.
I think Huey Lewis said it best, Chris. LA, Hollywood, in the Sunset Strip is someplace that I want to be. All right. I think Huey Lewis said it best. All right. Sometimes it's just cost of living, my friend. And you can talk about basketball all you want, But if I had the chance right now to get a high-paying job in LA and it would take me up out of Mishawaka, bye-bye Mishawaka. I'll be in LA for a high-paying job.
I'll be in LA for a low-paying job. Speaking of low-paying jobs, you have been listening to the NBA Fast Break, the fastest 15 minutes in the NBA. Rod, Chris, Jimmy, we appreciate you listening. Thank you very much. And, of course, Chris.
Goodbye, Internet.